Hello there guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for my rational perspective on Malmo 0, Chelsea 1. Chelsea doing the double over Malmo in the Champions League, en route of course to the knockout stages now with 2 games left in the group against Juventus and Zenit. I feel like we always knew that Juve game at the Bridge was going to be probably the biggest of the group, and that's exactly the way it's turned out, no matter what happens with Juve tonight against Zenit. I feel like there will be a general feeling of disappointment, maybe not general disappointment because we did win the game, but I think a sense of the game not living up to expectation, or at least not being as dominant or sort of flair-filled as Chelsea fans would have wanted, especially given the way we swatted aside Malmo at the Bridge, given the fact we have been scoring a few more goals recently. But I feel the way Tuchel rotated the team and kind of just the lack of finishing in the end, especially from the likes of Kai Havertz. You know, I felt that the scoreline itself is quite flattering to Malmo. You know, Chelsea should have won this game, I feel, by at least 3-0. If you're looking at chances, you know, there were 2 one-on-ones with Havertz that I expect him to do a lot better with, especially in the second half, and that maybe robbed Ruben of at least one really good assist. So, you know, Chelsea having about 74% possession, especially in the first half, 14 shots in the first half as well. The lack of quality from Malmo in the final third was evident as the game went on. I guess it's just a little bit stressful as you always get into that like final 15 minutes 1-0 where Chelsea have to win this game. But I feel like the positives are 3 individuals in particular. I feel 2 overall their performances stood out and can continue, and I feel is a real positive moving forward. There are some other things to touch on as well. Those 3 individuals are Hakim Ziyech, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Ziyech, to get the goal, to get the winner, I hopefully will give him a boost of confidence. Once again, I don't think his overall performance was at the level of the other 2 players I'm going to be speaking about. But it was, you got to give him credit for the movement to get into that position. He scores a goal. Just personally for him, after I'm sure a few difficult weeks, or at least a difficult start to the season, it's nice for him that he has that moment now. I'm not quite sure if I'm fully up for him staying in the team, because I think there are players to come back. There are players I think in better form. I still feel, especially once having Kai in the team, Ziyech and Kai, I'm still not quite sure that's a connection that really works. I feel that at times those 2 players cancel each other out, and as you saw with the tactical alteration that Tuchel made at half-time, just adding a little bit more pace and energy, especially on that right side with Callum Hudson-Odoi to add that more movement and directness, created the winner, absolutely. So I don't think Ziyech did enough for me to think overall in his performance, yeah, he's moving in a brilliant direction now. But, you know, about this time last week, I was criticising him for his Southampton performance, which I think was pretty dire. But against Newcastle, and obviously tonight scoring a winner against Malmo, he's at least had more involvement in the game. He's got on the ball a little bit more. I think there were some nice little runs behind the Malmo defence. But again, I mean, I don't think it was the most amazing performance. It was great for him to score the winner, and obviously that gets Chelsea a crucial 3 points in the group, which is great. Callum Hudson-Odoi, though, creates the goal, and you've got to give so much credit to Callum. He's a starter now, even with Timo coming back soon, Rom coming back, Pulisic back as well, Mason, I'm sure, recovering from his illness. All of that, Callum has to be in this front 3. I've seen it now in multiple games, the last 3 or 4 games, where he opens things up for Chelsea. He can change the tempo of attacks that I've said on this channel before and said in my writing. He has a very unique ability, I think, to spot when to move, when to run. You've got to give credit to Tuchel as well, moving into half-time, where, sure, I'm sure some people calling for maybe the first choice wing-backs to come on, because he started with Alonso and Dave. I think I'll get to that, because, you know, I think there's a lesson there for Tuchel once again. But, you know, Callum moving him over to the right instead of his left wing position, I think some people would have been baffled by that if you suggested it at half time. But Tuchel makes that alteration and it creates the winner. And it was such good movement from Callum. But we've seen it against Newcastle, we've seen it against Norwich, specifically for the first goal of the game, the opening goal of the game for Chelsea, just taking his defender on, and a brilliantly carved ball, and it made it so easy for Hakim Ziyech. I think you've got to give credit to Ziyech for being in that position, because I've seen so many of those types of passes from Chelsea players when no one's there to finish it off. Credit to him for getting into the great position, but really it's all about Callum Hudson-Odoi. His little flick round the corner for Kai Havertz, linking up with him well, making the perfect run, and then having the coolness to real curl in a ball that was absolutely perfect and won Chelsea the game. This is what Callum had to do. Tuchel was giving him the chances in the first team, specifically in the front 3 further up the pitch. you can dismiss the opposition he's playing against, but he is fundamentally changing games for Chelsea. And I feel as an attack, we look back with Callum Hudson-Odoi in it, on the left or the right. And it's just great to see. And it's great to be sat here and speaking about Callum in a different way, because especially in the summer when we got to deadline day and there were talks about a loan, I just became so tired of the Callum debate in terms of him being in the same position, not getting many chances in the first team, barely getting opportunities further up the pitch. Now he's had this run, and I really hope this can be just more than a nice little few weeks for him against lower opposition, because there's injuries to other players. I really think that he should be maintaining his place. Whatever you think about other attackers in this squad, I think Callum is absolutely vindicating his role at the moment. But lastly, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who really impressed me again tonight. I feel he impacted the game when he came off the bench against Newcastle at the weekend. And I think it's the same story tonight, where he is proving his worth under Tuchel. Where against Burnley at the weekend, where Chelsea once again you suspect is going to be dominating that game in possession, going to need a little bit more dynamism from the midfield. Ruben just offers it, and he should have had at least one assist, as I said earlier in the video. Some really lovely movement, the skill, the trickery, but it's the intelligence of Ruben too. I think a bit like Callum, to decide when to do certain things. There are moments where I still feel his final ball could be a lot better. He does the first part good, but then that final execution is kind of that big thing to take him to that next level. But it's easy to look at those moments and forget about the good passes he made for Kai Havertz, because fundamentally the thing with assists is it's all about that person finishing the chance, and we forget about that. You know, I think when someone misses a chance, you're more looking at the person that missed it rather than crediting the person who played the pass, because then they would have been credited for that, you know, creativity basically. And Ruben doesn't get that, but I think he absolutely deserves to get some credit tonight for that, and taking his opportunity. The revival continues, and I just feel once again he offers something a little bit different in that midfield, in particular in games where I feel Chelsea should be a lot more dominant. And the evidence in recent games to me, I don't really want to see Ruben back on the bench on Saturday, because even with Kante's fitness, with Mason potentially back, obviously Kovacic is out for a few weeks, there is an option there to just keep that double six, even though they played the full 90 tonight. I'd like to see them start against Burnley. You know, it's Saturday, 3 o'clock. We haven't played on a Wednesday. There's time until that game. I'd like to see it before the international break, because I think Ruben has taken his chance, and it's just nice to see him, as I say, in fitness, in flow, moving forward, influencing things. I think the more he plays, the more confident he's going to get, the connections he has naturally with players around him. I just think it's all positive. Another positive, just Chelsea have only let in 26 goals in 48 games under Thomas Tuchel. Another clean sheet tonight, but that wasn't much of a surprise given the lack of quality against Malmo. Pulisic coming off the bench, first appearance in 80 days. Great to see him back on the pitch, and considering he hasn't played any football for Chelsea in 80 days, he looked really sharp. And he did things, once again, I've always credited Pulisic with the anticipation, or just making smart runs from that right side rather than the left side, which I still think naturally is his best position. But from the right side, there were a few times where him and Barkley linked up, a chipped ball from Barkley behind the Malmo defence, and Pulisic making a diagonal run, which he makes similar ones from the left as well. I think he's got that really good ability that nearly opened things up for Chelsea. And I just felt all round, you know, Pulisic obviously right at the end there takes it around the goalkeeper one-on-one. Should get it on target. It wouldn't have counted anyway, but I just felt for someone, as I say, who's had such a struggle with fitness, to come on that game and impress, and I think look pretty sharp. I don't think he's going to start on Saturday, even though he has a pretty decent record against Burnley in the past. But it's positive for Pulisic, it really is, because he needs to make a quick impact if he wants to get back into the first team with Tuchel and all the attackers there. So positive for them. I think the only negative for me tonight, and it's not the biggest negative, as I say, it's not the biggest game, and you know, I fully suspect when we get to Saturday, fully resting Ben Chilwell and Reece James, they'll be back in the team, obviously. But I just think you saw how I think the gap between Dave and Alonso at wing back compared to Reece and Chilwell at wing back. I mean, I just think it's night and day at the moment. The creativity, the movement of those two players, the creativity, the pace of those two players. It's just a different game, I think, with the wing backs, because they are such a big part. I know we keep on stressing this every game, and it's so obvious. Everyone knows how big wing backs are in Tuchel's system, but they really are, in terms of if you don't have that dynamic movement, if you have a sense where Alonso doesn't really have the speed to get up there, or he's at times it felt like like him and Callum were kind of getting in the way of each other. There wasn't that nice movement I feel Callum and Chilwell have together. I think they have a nice relationship growing on that left side, and especially of Reece to his creativity and finishing, as we've seen both with, you know, him and Chilwell, amazing finishers so far this season with goals. You just see the gap there, and it's not, you know, a criticism of Alonso, who I think later on in the season, as we know, Alonso has the good cameos, but he's not in the best form at the moment after being taken out of the team. Dave, I still think creatively, if you're looking at him in terms of crossing, I still think him from a right centre-back position, moving up the pitch from a centre-back position, that's where you see his best crossing, because it's kind of a different area he gets into outside the penalty box. I'm thinking back to the game against Zenit St. Petersburg, the first game of this group, where he creates the goal for Lukaku. That kind of area where he used to set up goals for Morata. When he's at wing-back, and there's a different, I think, requirement for him, especially in a game where Chelsea were just so dominant in possession. But I fully understand, if you can rest players like Chilwell and James, who are so crucial to us, happy days. And if you can win, I mean, it's a small gripe, but it is a gripe there. So generally, you know, Chelsea, I think we've got to beat Juventus no matter what they do tonight. They've been quite shocking in Serie A. If you've been watching and tracking their league form, which I have since they played us and beat us, they've really struggled. They're about, I think, 15 points or something mad like that off the top Napoli in Serie A. They are way off the pace. They keep on losing games at Stamford Bridge. Hopefully by then we'll have Werner, we'll have Lukaku, we'll have a lot of players back. Got to win that game, because I think if we win that game, I fully expect that Chelsea are going to finish this group top. That doesn't guarantee you a great draw, as we found out last year against Atletico Madrid. But at the same time, I think it's important that Chelsea finish top of this group. So those are my feelings on the game. Let me know yours. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great evening, and I'll see you again.